Hey, 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 everybody. Today I have for you podcast number 018. Today's podcast is titled Atomic New Year. Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. And I am Dr. Pete Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network podcast, where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life that you deserve. This podcast is for you if you want to live a life with less limitations and more freedom, with a healthier mind, body, and spirit. And guess what today is? Today is Tuesday. I'm recording this, and we're in the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I hope that each and every one of you has had an absolutely fantastic Christmas. I hope it was a lot of time that you enjoyed with your family and your friends. And I hope that you got all the things that you wanted in your stocking. Not that that's what Christmas is about, but it's a time of giving, it's a time of love, and it's a time of celebration, certainly celebrating our Savior Jesus Christ and his birth, even though we're not really sure if that's the exact day. It doesn't really matter that he was born that day or not. But anyway, that's where it all came from. Anyway, but now we're heading into New Year's. And oftentimes, New Year's is another time of celebration, and it is a time of reflection, more time possibly with family and friends. And today I thought I would put together some ideas about New Year's, and so that's where we got this idea for an atomic New Year. And I'm not talking about an atomic bomb or anything like that, or atomic war. As a matter of fact, like when we think of New Year's, what is New Year's? That's really point number one. Like, what are we thinking about? Everybody's got kind of a different take on what New Year's is. Um, it's a saying goodbye to the old year that we just got done living and experiencing. And so it's that time of reflection, possibly of looking back of what you did and what you didn't do, what you experienced, and maybe some things that you were hoping to do and didn't do. Maybe it was that you had got a new job. Maybe you went on a vacation. Maybe you had the birth of a new child or a new grandchild. Maybe someone that you cared about dearly passed away. Maybe someone got sick. Maybe you yourself got sick during this last year and it was a battle. Maybe it was a time where financially you did fantastic and you were super blessed. Maybe it was a financial year of struggle for you. Whatever that may be, New Year is a time where we can look back. But what else is it? It's sometimes a part of the year where people can feel um, guilty or less than. And I want to be the first to tell you that that's a lie. You are not less than because of something that you did or didn't do. And it's somewhat of a thing where I think people feel pressure from outside sources, and that can be a negative on you. So I don't want you to walk away from this podcast feeling that whatsoever. You are amazing in many ways. You have many gifts and talents. Um, but what is the new year? No, it's new opportunity for sure. The calendar is going to change over, right? And that's going to be new. We're headed into a recession possibly. I mean, I think we're already kind of in a recession, but that's a totally different topic. But this is more about you. Like, what is the new year going to bring for you? So there's a lot of questions. That's what I see that happens most of the time, is that people just begin to ask questions. And I think that is fantastic, because the better the quality questions that you ask, the more meaning and better quality life that you will live. So if you can improve the quality of the questions that you're asking, and if New Year's is the time of year that you start to ask questions more than ever, you will certainly improve your quality of life and it will bring greater meaning to your life because you're going to start getting some answers. The more questions you ask, the more you're seeking, and that's a really wonderful thing. So, I want to share with you something that I thought was a really nice gift. One of the things that I really appreciate are books. And I tried like crazy to do Audible, which is, listening to books, and I'm very auditory. I like podcasts, but certain books I can listen to, but many books I have to actually hold in my hand, read with my eyes, and actually write notes in the margins and use a highlighter and sometimes even a notebook alongside of it. But my son Luke, who was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, gave me this book by James Clear, and it's a really popular book. It's entitled Atomic Habits. And I just started to read it, and I thought this is a great book to have at this point of the year. And in the introduction of the book, I haven't really read the whole book yet, but I've just gotten through the beginning of it and started skimming it. One of the points that he made, I think, is fantastic. And that is 1% better. This is point number two, 1% better each and every day. So tiny incremental improvements. At the end of 1 year, you will have a 37% increase in all areas of your life. So 37%. I don't know how this was calculated, but I know this man did his research on this because he references where he gets it from. But so 37% better in a year. And he talks about that habits are like compounding interest. So 1% better over time, it's a slight incremental change, will produce a large impact in a year, a significant impact of 37%. Imagine if you had an investment that if it only grew a little bit, tiny at each day, that at the end of the year, you had a 37% return on that investment. You would have thought, wow, that actually turned out to be a really good investment. But most investments do what? They go up and then they go down. They go up and then they go down. They go up and they go down. And if you get, a return of 10%, you're killing it. You're doing really good. If you get 20%, you're doing fantastic. But 37%, those types of investments in the financial world are super, super hard to come by. They're very, very rare. Yeah. So think about how your own habits, think about, you're overweight and you go to the gym and you go to the gym and after 4 or 5 days, you're still overweight, right? You don't notice a huge change, but day in and day out, putting in the effort, that 1% improvement model of improving something a little bit every day, after a year, you're certainly going to be better, especially if you're working on 1% better on your diet, 1% better on your sleep, right? All of those things are going to add up to 37% improvement over the course of a year. Love that. That was point number two. Point number three is 1% worse equals 0.03. So literally your improvement doesn't happen. It basically goes to zero. In other words, things fall apart when we consistently make poor choices, when we consistently make bad decisions, when we just keep committing the same errors over and over again. Tiny mistakes, making rationalizations over and over and over again come with a price. And that price is a toxic result. So I think that's a very sobering point because so many of us have the ability to overlook small things. because we don't think they matter that much. Like, I mean, how much does that really matter, right? Where we rationalize eating dessert, where, oh man, that's no big deal. I just had one. And then the next thing you know, you're doing it every day. Or same thing, alcoholics can rationalize their drinking behavior. And the next thing it just produces a toxic result. So I think that is super helpful to me because I like to know both sides of the story. We can't be all sunshine and roses every day. We also have to have some sobering reality on the other side to give it some context, to give it some real meaning so that we know, hey, that this 1% thing, it may not seem like a big deal, but it's certainly better than 1% worse. So I'm doing something that's 1% better day in and day out, and I make it a habit versus 1% worse day in and day out. I'm just constantly committing the same mistakes over and over again. It's certainly going to add up. If it's in the financial world, like maybe it's you keep paying for something that you never use, right? So maybe you have this subscription to something on your credit card and it continues to ding you $10 every month. And every month that $10 keeps coming out, but you're too lazy and you keep putting it off like, $10 is no big deal. And at the end of the year, that's money that you could have had, right? So you add that up over time. Oh, geez, that's $120. Well, what could you have done with that $120? You could have wasted it, but what if that $120 was invested and actually made you a return, and you continue to invest that year after year after year? It's going to compound in interest. So it's a lost opportunity, and we see that with money. We don't always see that with our lifestyle and our behavior. So that was point number 3. Point number 4 kind of goes back to with the first point, which is, what is New Year's? New what, right? But point number 4 was something that was taught to me by one of my mentors, Dr. Sean Dill, and actually Lacey Book, his wife, um, and that is the concept of a rolling calendar. So a rolling calendar is 365 days back from where you are today. So, magic doesn't happen on January 1st. When 12/31 changes over to January 1st, there's nothing magical about that tick of the clock, the ball dropping, and all of that. Nothing significant really does happen other than in Times Square they go crazy and the television networks make it up to be a big deal and so forth, and they play the song. But a rolling calendar says, hey, what are your results today going back 365 days? So this is really important for goal setters. So, and everybody, I believe, should have some goals and some direction. That's like having a GPS heading that's saying, I've thought about what I'm trying to accomplish in my lifetime, and I've asked appropriate questions, and this is where I want to go, so I can have the greatest impact, so I can make the biggest difference, whatever you're trying to accomplish. And a rolling calendar says, okay, well, you may set goals on January 1st, but what happens if you don't hit those goals on December 31st? What if you hit those goals on September 13th? I mean, you've hit those goals, and you could have hit those goals in 1 year. Like say you wanted to make $1 million in a year. Well, what if you made that $1 million on September 13th, going back all the way from September 14th, the previous year? So in 365 days, September 14th coming all the way back around the calendar, December 13th, that's 365 days. What if you hit your goal then? Like, sometimes you've hit your goal and you don't even realize that you've made it, and you're stressing out about it because oftentimes at the end of the year, you might fall off the wagon a little bit, right? So I thought rolling calendar is a great concept to think about, because it takes a bit of the pressure off when the calendar turns over to a new year, because that's just a man-made construct. That's not necessarily something that has any meaning to it. So I love the idea of the rolling calendar. Um, Point number 5 is one of my favorites. I've used it a lot through school, and that is the power of pressure. So, this is the exact opposite of the rolling calendar, and that is you still have days left in this year to try to achieve your goal. Um, do you throttle everything back and say, I'm going to take a break and just kick back and relax for this week between Christmas and New Year's? Or do you, put your foot on the accelerator and hammer down and try to get more done before the year is out? I know myself, if I have a deadline for something, I work really well under pressure, and I will deliver if I have a deadline. I've always done it this way. If I had a project that was due, and the time is running out, I can get a great amount of work done in a short period of time, because what it does is it creates focus. It creates ultra focus. The only thing is you really need to give yourself enough runway because certain planes can take off with a short runway, but large planes, they need a longer runway. So if you're trying to accomplish something very large scale, it's going to be a lot more challenging, obviously, with less time. So try to give yourself the most amount of runway, but don't necessarily think that just because we've only got a couple of days left in this year that, I'm just going to kick back and, you know, drink some eggnog and call it a day, and we'll just kick it off again next year and try for those goals. So anyway, that is what I have for you for this podcast to wrap up this year. And I want to just take a moment to thank you as people that are watching this, people that have subscribed to this. I super, super appreciate you. I think about you each and every day, not all day long, but I do think about you each and every day. And I am super, super grateful for you following my journey in the podcasting world, and I appreciate the fact that you actually care about this information that we're trying to deliver, and we're just trying to make a better impact, and we want you to live a better quality of life with less limitations. And that's all I have for this week's podcast. Make sure you tune in each and every week to stay connected, be inspired, and of course, keep moving toward your best life by stripping away your limitations. Happy New Year and God bless.